Now, Saftu General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi is concerned that some companies will use mandatory vaccination as an excuse to reduce the workforce. Vavi says while they encourage people to get their jabs, it will provide an excuse for some employers who are driven by their own interests. Vavi joins me now. Very good morning to you. Thank you so much for your time. Let's talk about the basis for your, disagreement with mandatory vaccinations. You say that employers may use it as an excuse. Give us more expansion.
Not may. Replace may by they are. They are already. Unions of Saftu are reporting a phenomenon where unscrupulous bosses are now taking the opportunity to basically right-size, downsize, restructure, and through forcing workers to vaccinate, and where they don't, will not even afford workers an opportunity to debate with them alternatives. Because the Occupational Health and Safety Act does envisage that there will be circumstances where the employers feel obliged to get workers to work in a new environment as a result of whatever health and safety consideration that they may have. And now there is a big issue of a pandemic, and so the employers, in terms of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, are obliged to engage, to find alternatives. Those alternatives can include asking workers to work in isolation in their offices, not interact with other workers, or even asking them to work from home. The bosses are not doing all of that. The unscrupulous employers are going for the kill as we speak. They're just laying off workers, they're putting them under Section 189 immediately and dismiss them for so-called operational reasons. And this is what we fear. Forget about the big employers who will not do that because they will be always under a public blame. But think about thousands and thousands of workplaces spreading across the length and the breadth of our society, of our country, where even the unions do not have sufficient reach. If you consider that unions combined only organizes 26% or so of the workers. Think about the 76% of workers who do not have unions, where there will never be a Department of Labor visitor to check if there is compliance with the law. Think about the workers who are working 1, 2, 3, and who have no bargaining power of whatever, facing their racist, aggressive, sexist employer telling them that they must be vaccinated or leave. That's what we are facing already. There's a piling cases in the CCMA where the employers are doing exactly like I've just described to you. So It's not about fear. It's about this is now already beginning to happen in our country.
With this already beginning to happen in our country, what then would happen, or perhaps would we not be going round in circles if the president had, for instance, to announce a hard lockdown? Would it not essentially result in the same operational processes that you speak of?
If another lockdown was to be announced, which we're not expecting because the numbers are not anywhere close to what we went through in July and June of this year. But if the president was to do that, to put us back into the lockdown, the consequences to this economy is going to be even greater. Look, we have seen the GDP figures going down to below 1.5%. In the third quarter of this year. We've seen hundreds and thousands of workers losing their jobs. A total of 1.4 million jobs were lost during the 2020 period. No responsible government will just willy-nilly go take us back to a lockdown in the circumstances that we are facing. And that we do expect government, though, to drive their message of getting everybody to be vaccinated even harder. We do expect unions, civil society, and everybody to drive a message that says there is no debate about the efficacy of the vaccines. They work, and if the if anybody doubts that, you have to be closer to people who are working in the hospitals, because as we speak, the numbers of people piling in the hospitals are the people that are unvaccinated, here in South Africa and everywhere else in the world.
Absolutely. So if you'll allow me to interrupt you there, Mr. Vavi, with that consideration in mind, why not encourage your members to indeed comply with the mandatory vaccination so that we can move the country forward and avoid these job losses that you speak of?
We're asking workers and we're encouraging workers, we are pleading with them to get vaccinated. We're trying to persuade them. We're showing them that the information that is being peddled through the social media, which is anti-vaccination messages, are wrong. They are unscientific, and they are being peddled by the people who do not have their best interest in their hearts. Workers must be vaccinated. There's a difference between persuading and showing workers that vaccination are working than to force them and to dismiss them if they do not want to be vaccinated for whatever the reason. Because we believe that will be directly acting against the spirit and the letter, by the way, of the Constitution, whose Section 12.2 gives every person a right to refuse vaccination, and for whatever the reason, religious or any other one, no matter how invalid you may think it is, but the Constitution provides every South African the right to say no, and we must respect that.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there for now. Saftu's General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi, they're speaking about the union's take when it comes to mandatory vaccinations.